India, awesome. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the BRC Workshop Hour. This is our very first session, so it means a lot that you're here. And throughout this hour, two of our BRC members will be presenting their workshops on the neuroscience of dreams and memory. Each presentation will be about 30 minutes long, and both will provide time for you all to ask questions and do some fun activities. Also, just so you know, these presentations will be recorded, so if you want to see this content again, there will be an opportunity for you to do so. And just for a little background on Simply Neuroscience and BRC, Simply Neuroscience is a youth worldwide organization that aims to provide neuroscience resources to those all over the world. And then BRC is a department within Simply Neuroscience and we do a variety of projects such as updating resource databases, really cool workshops like this, and a variety of other things. So I will now introduce our first presenter. So Leticia is involved in Simply Neuroscience as a BRC member, and outside of Simply Neuroscience, she's a university student who studies biology. And she's always been interested in neuroscience, which is why she's currently involved in a lab that works on neurophysiology. All right, so now I will share my screen up here and do this. All right. And now we will get started. So take it away. Whenever you're ready, Leticia.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. As Darren said, my name is Leticia, and I'll be presenting this workshop about the neuroscience of dreams, and I hope you all enjoy it. You can bet. Okay, so first of all, what are dreams? Dreams are basically stories and images that our brains create while we are sleeping, and they are a state of consciousness characterized by sensory, cognitive, and emotional occurrences while we are sleeping. And in fact, we don't know exactly why or how we dream. So there have always been this source of mystery around dreams. And it's also very difficult to study them because we can only access them via report. That is, when the person wakes up, they will tell us about their dreams, but sometimes they can forget. So that's why it's so difficult to study them. So first of all, that it's very important for you to know that while we are sleeping, we are unaware of what's happening around us, but our brains and bodies are very active, and sleep is divided into 4 categories. And first of all, there is awake state. There is the time spent before and after falling asleep. And it also includes brief awakening during sleep. So for example, you are sleeping, but then you wake up and then you get back to sleep right after that. And right after, we have light sleep. That's where the muscles relax, respiration slow, heart rate decreases, and body temperature drops. It's where the sleep actually begins, and it's very easy to wake up from it because, as I said, the sleep is very light. Then there's deep sleep. It's where the blood pressure drops. It also promotes muscle growth and cell repair because growth hormone is released during this particular phase. And it also shows long and slow brain waves. And it's very difficult to wake up from this state. And if the person is awoken, they will be very disoriented. And light sleep and deep sleep are put together into this category called REM sleep, which stands for non-rapid eye movement. And lastly, we have REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement. And it's where most of the dreams occur. And the body becomes really relaxed and also immobilize to stop us from acting out our dreams. And the brain is also very active during this particular phase, the REM sleep, and it also shows benefits for memory, learning, and also problem solving. Now we have a quick quiz. It's a little matching game. You can put your answer on the chat. So you can, you will be putting the number of the I forgot the name, I'm sorry, of the event. For example, growth hormone is released, so you will match to the sleep state. So Christina said 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Cool. So this is the answer. I hope you all get it right. So now I'll talk a little bit about dreaming in different phases. So dream research is more focused on REM sleep, but we can still have dreams during NREM sleep. However, the reports tend to be shorter. So for NREM sleep, people can experience hypnagogic hallucinations. There are vivid visual, auditory, tactile, or even kinetic perceptions. And NREM dreams and REM dreams can share some similarities. So for example, dream bizarreness, but they can also be different. For example, NREM dreams are not very emotional, and they are more related to day-to-day life occurrences, thus tending to be more plausible than REM dreams. Now for REM sleep. Well, as I said before, we tend to have more dreams during REM sleep, and they have vivid, emotional, and rich narratives. And they have vivid visual and auditory components. And as I said before, they can have lots of levels of various emotions, such as joy, surprise, anger, fear, and anxiety. And it's also suggested that fear in dreams and nightmares is a way to prepare us to fight danger in real life. Now talking about a little bit about brain activity during REM sleep. So for hyperactivity, we can see some increased activity in areas such as the pontine tegmentum, the thalamus, basal forebrain, as well as limbic and paralimbic structure that controls emotional processing. And as I said before, REM dreams are very emotional, so that makes total sense. Primary motor and premotor cortices, cerebellum, and basal ganglia that controls motor content of dreams. We are always kind of in movement in our dreams, like walking or trying to run. Medial prefrontal cortex, circuits of the medial temporal lobe region, and the posterior cingulate cortex that control memory and self-referential processing, and higher order occipital-temporal visual association areas that control vivid visual dream imagery. And as I said before, again, REM dreams have lots of vivid visual components. Now for hypoactivity, we can see some decreased activity in areas such as the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, orbitofrontal cortex, posterior cingulate gyrus, precuneus, and inferior parietal cortex that control cognitive functions, metacognition, and ego functions, such as the orientation in time and space, reality testing while you're dreaming, and self-monitoring. And it's also suggested that hypoactivity in the prefrontal cortex may play a role in dream amnesia, that is, when you wake up and you can't really remember your dream. Now we can take a look at this picture where the areas in blue show decreased activity and the areas in orange show increased activity. And as for the dorsolateral PFC, it's inactive. So this area controls logic and rationality, and that makes total sense. It is inactive, and that's why we have such crazy and bizarre dreams during this phase of REM sleep. Now for lucid dreams, in my opinion, they are the coolest kind of dreams, and they are a hybrid state of consciousness with features from both waking and dreaming, because you will be dreaming, but you will have some awareness of it, and it's considered in general a part of REM sleep, and it has different degrees. So from pre-lucid, where you have minimal awareness that you're dreaming, to actually controlling your dreams. And a interesting fact about regular lucid dreamers is that they have a different brain structure in comparison to those with low lucidity. That is, people with high lucidity tend to have more gray matter in the frontal polar cortex. What triggers lucid dreaming? I will respond in the end. There is a slide for questions, so I'll respond in the end, okay? And here there is this another picture, and again, the areas in orange show increased activity, and the dorsolateral PFC, bilateral prefrontal cortex, and parietal areas that control functions such as cognition, behavior, and sensory functions are activated. And it's very interesting because in REM sleep, the dorsolateral PFC is inactive, and here in lucid dreaming, it's active. That's why we can take some logic choices in our dreams. Now I'll talk a little bit about the chemistry of dreaming. And as you already may know, the neurotransmitters are chemical messengers that carry information, and they, as well as the hormones, play an important part in sleep and in dreaming. So let's take a look at this picture on the left. So we can see a brain in two different states, one while awake and the other one in REM sleep. And as I said before, during REM sleep, the brain is really active, and that's because lots of interconnections are firing, thus activating areas that produce and release neurotransmitters and hormones. So first, let's take a look at acetylcholine, that it's a very important neurotransmitter related to learning, memory, and lots of other functions. And the levels are at their peak during REM sleep. And there's a link between REM sleep, acetylcholine, and Alzheimer's disease. That is, In people that suffer from Alzheimer's, they have the cholinergic system impaired. And this cholinergic system is the one that produces acetylcholine. So the depletion of this neurotransmitter can lead to decrease in REM sleep, decrease in dreams, and memory loss. Now for melatonin, it is known as the sleep hormone. It's produced and released by the pineal gland, this little red dot on the image on the right. I don't know if you can see it, but it's really small. And it promotes sleep. So when it's darker, the hormone is produced and released, and then you get sleepy. And when it's brighter, the melatonin levels deplete, so you can wake up. And that's why during the winter, you get a little bit sleepy most of the time, because it's usually darker. And also melatonin levels tend to be higher during REM sleep, and they can even prolong the amount of REM sleep, REM dreams, and higher doses of melatonin can even lead to lucid dreaming. Now, oxytocin is known as the love or cuddle hormone. It plays a very important role in social bonding. There is evidence that this hormone plays a part in dreaming because of the social interactions, because in dreaming, we are most of the time interacting with other people. And there's also the area where it is produced, that is the hypothalamus, because it's really close to centers that control and regulate sleep and wake states. And lastly, we have dopamine. It's a very important neurotransmitter that controls motivation and cognitive activities. And studies in both animals and humans show that it plays a role in REM physiology, dream recall, and dream content itself. And I also would like to mention this study with mice and dopamine imbalance conducted by neuroscientists at Duke University in 2006 that showed that when dopamine levels were dramatically decreased, the mice could no longer sleep or dream. And when the levels of dopamine were really high, the mice's brains activity shows some activity that made it look like the mice were experiencing dreams while still awake. And this study also gave insight into Alzheimer's, because in Alzheimer's, brain cells that produce dopamine die or become impaired. And the depletion of this neurotransmitter can lead to sleep problems. And these sleep problems can become apparent long before the other problems become apparent. So we have another quick quiz. It's the same as the other one. You can put the name of the neurotransmitter or hormone to the function, and you can put yours on the chat. Okay. So this is the answer. And lastly, we have similarities between dreams and psychosis. So dreams can share some similarities with psychosis. So for example, uncritical acceptance of cognitive bizarreness. So for example, when we are dreaming, we don't tend to think things are weird. We just accept them, simple as that. Decreased reality testing, delusional belief of being awake while dreaming. And these are similarities between dreams and psychosis, psychosis characteristics. And these observations are supported by functional magnetic resonance imaging data of psychotic patients. But there is some difference. So for example, psychotic patients tend to judge their dreams as less bizarre in comparison to healthy individuals that tend to judge their dreams as very bizarre, for example. And our last quick quiz, which brain part has increased activity during lucid dreams, but decreased activity during REM sleep? Which one? You can put your guess. Frontopolar cortex, no. Frontal cortex. It's one that I mentioned a lot. It's the dorsolateral PFC. So now, do you have any questions? Christina had one question that was, what triggers lucid dreaming, right? I think. What triggers lucid dreaming? So there is a lot of research, I think, in lucid dreaming. So what I read about it, it was the thing that I mentioned with dopamine, I think. It was dopamine, right? No, melatonin, sorry. So when melatonin levels are very high, they can lead to more lucid dreams. That's what I read about that. So do you guys have any more questions, or we can move on to the game? Thank you, Melanie. So now we have a game. There is a link to the presentation. I think we can give the link, right, to the presentation. I think so. So this game is a quiz. It has 10 questions, and each question is worth 10 points. So you can put the rules, please.
Maybe for time's sake, I'm trying to get out of the presentation real quick. Okay, maybe for time's sake, because we are coming up on the half-hour mark, maybe we can send the link to this presentation in chat. And I believe we can also send the presentation of the original presentation in the chat as well. Are you okay with that, Leticia?
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Okay, because they are your slides, so I don't want to share them without your permission.
No.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, maybe we can just send this in chat and they can do it on their own because it is very, very cool. Awesome. Okay. And then soon we can transition to Nazia's presentation. Okay, so I will send the link in chat. All right, here it is. All right, the link is in the chat. And essentially, Letitia, do you want to explain how the game works so they can do it on their own?
So it's a very simple game. It's just a quiz. It has 10 questions. So each question is worth 10 points. So if you get a question right, you get 10 points. So you can get in a maximum 100 points. That's it. It's very simple.
Awesome. Okay.
So thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and I hope you enjoy the game for those who are willing to play. And that's it.
And I will send the link to the original presentation in chat. There it is. Okay. Well, thank you, Letitia. That was awesome. I learned a lot about the neuroscience of dreams. And so next we have Nazia's presentation on the neuroscience of memory. So I will introduce her quickly. So Nazia is a high school student with a passion for neuroscience and spreading awareness to reduce stigma around mental health and neurological disorders. Go to her presentation. She has experience in research from doing Model UN conferences, and in the future, Nazia aims to do biology-based clinical research and lab work. All right, so here are her slides, and Nazia, whenever you're ready.
So hi, I'm Nazia, and today I'm going to present my slides on the neuroscience of memory. I hope you enjoy, and you can ask me anything at the end of the presentation. So what is memory? Memory refers to the processes that are used to acquire, store, retain, and later retrieve information. There are three major processes involved in memory: encoding, storage, and retrieval. It encompasses the fact and exponential details that people consciously call to mind, as well as ingrained knowledge that surfaces without effort or even awareness. Memory is the sum total of what we remember and gives us the capability to learn and adapt from previous experiences, and most importantly, build relationships. However, memory is far from perfect. Most people do not remember every single thing that happened to them, and memories often change and become distorted. So there are two main types of memory. First, there's short-term or working memory. Think of this as the focus of current attention, or what you are actively thinking and about right now. Second is long-term memory. This information is largely outside of our awareness, but can be called into working memory to be used when needed. Some of this information is fairly easy to recall, while other memories are much more difficult to access. So now we'll talk a little bit about short-term memory. So most of the information kept in short-term memory will be stored for approximately 20 to 30 seconds, but it can be just seconds if rehearsal or active maintenance of the information is prevented. Recent research suggests that people are capable of storing approximately 4 chunks or pieces of information in short-term memory. Examples of short-term memory loss include missing a monthly payment, forgetting the date, losing our keys, or having trouble finding the right word to use from time to time. So for long-term memory, it is the final stage of the processing of memory. Long-term memory decays very little with time, and it is easier to recall. Examples of long-term memory are recollections of important events in the distant past, such as bicycle riding skills, and the capacity of long-term memory is thought to have no limits. So how do we retrieve these memories? So this is done through the process of recollection. One can experience the memories of process by retrieval or recall. To use the information that has been encoded into memory, it first has to be retrieved. There are many factors that can influence how memories are retrieved, such as the type of information being used and retrieval cues that are present. The speed of memory retrieval and recall depends on the strength of neural pathways formed in the earlier stages of memory processing. It is not uncommon for people to fail to recall information. This can be demonstrated in the tip of tongue phenomena, where we feel like we are trying to remember what we are trying to remember is just outside our reach. Hopefully everything I'm saying now is retained in your long-term memory. So now it's time for a short quiz. Do we all have perfect memory? Feel free to put your answer in the chat. Okay, great. I'm seeing a lot of good answers. I'm gonna put the explanation in the chat right now. Oh, you wish you did. Okay, that's great. Sounds good. Yeah, I think that's all the answers. So that's the answer. Oops, 1 minute. And for our second question, it's how long is information stored in long-term memory and how long is it stored in short-term memory? Yeah, so everyone got it mostly correct. I'll put the real answer in the chat so you can cross-reference. Yeah, good job, everyone. You guys are really smart. We can move on to the next slide. So now we're going to talk about memory and mental health. So abnormal memory function can contribute to distress or it can coincide with an underlying disorder. Forgetfulness is associated with depression. Connections in memory, such as those involving fear, situation, or drug-related cues, are an integral part of anxiety and substance use disorders, and post-traumatic symptoms are intertwined with the memory of traumatic experiences. So post-traumatic symptoms often show up in PTSD, which is a disorder where situations, people, or other stimuli related to traumatic experiences, they affect this disorder and they can trigger highly distressing memories, and the person may seek to avoid such reminders of these kind of events. So for losing memory, Memory problems can range from minor annoyances like forgetting where you left your keys to major diseases like Alzheimer's and other kinds of dementia that affect the quality of life and the ability to function. Sometimes information is simply lost from memory, and in other cases, it was never stored correctly in the first place. Loss can also be linked to age and genetic disorders. Some of the main memory disorders are Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, vascular dementia, dementia with Lewy bodies, and frontotemporal dementia. So the most common type of dementia is the Alzheimer's, and then is the V dementia, which is the decreased or blocked blood flow that damages the brain tissue. This is the second most common form of dementia after Alzheimer's disease. And then F dementia is when brain tissue breaks down and abnormal protein deposits called Lewy bodies from causing dementia symptoms. And then mild cognitive impairment is the condition that affects nerve cells in the frontal and temporal lobes of the brain. And as the cells die, the lobes shrink. So there are many types of treatments for memory loss. Some are physical treatments such as antibiotics, diet and nutrition, abstaining from drugs and alcohol, medicine, exercise, cognitive rehabilitation. And for antibiotics, if an infection causes memory problems, antibiotics can treat an infection. Some forms of memory disorders can be caused by drug and alcohol use. Then certain medicines may cause slow declines in memory, thinking, and language skills, and reduce changes in behavior. And these medical conditions can only work for a small time. And staying active can slow the advancement of symptoms and keep you healthy, so you can exercise on your own or with a physical therapist. Spending quality time with loved ones and friends can improve your mood, feelings of isolation, and boost overall health. And recently, scientists have developed a kind of treatment called deep brain stimulation, and this is sorry, 1 minute. This is a neurotransmitter that is placed under the skin in the chest, and it leads wires that are implanted into the brain, and it sends electrical impulses to a specific area of the brain, causes a symptom such as a tremor or walking problems. So now we're gonna talk about tips to improve memory. So I guess everyone would like to improve their memory because it can help you in many parts of life, such as taking a test or anything. So to improve your memory, you can try to jot down the information. So there has been a lot of studies that have showed that actually writing down the information or taking notes that is associated with remembering it more effectively. And then we can also it can serve as a reminder or a reference later on. And then we can attach meaning to it. So you can remember something more easily if you attach meaning to it. So for instance, if you associate a person you just met with someone you already know, you may be able to remember their name easier. And number 3 is repeat it. Repetition helps the memory become encoded beyond your short-term memory. And number 4 is group it. Information that is characterized becomes easier to remember and recall. So now we're gonna play a short-term memory test game. So for this, you're gonna need a piece of paper and a pencil. So I'll give you guys a minute to gather your materials. Okay, I think that would be sufficient time for you guys to get the materials. So for trial 1, you're just gonna look at the letters and you're gonna try to remember them. So just write down the letters after they move on from the screen. Moving on to trial 4. And now for the 5th trial. And now for the last trial. So I'll give you a 1 minute to write down the last one because it was kind of long. So now you can cross-check your answers with the correct letters and see how much you remembered. Feel free to put in the chat what percentage of the letters you were able to remember. 5 out of 6, that's great, that's really good. So that's it for that game. Now we're gonna do another memory test. And for this one, you're gonna get 2 minutes to see what words are in this table. And you're gonna memorize as many of the words as you can. And then after the 2 minutes are up, you can get out that sheet of paper and you have to write down as many of the words that you can remember. So I'm gonna start a timer in 3, 2, 1. Just a heads up, you guys have 1 more minute. 30 seconds. Okay, your time is up. Please move on to the next slide. So now you can start writing, and after you're done writing, you can. So now you'll have 2 minutes to start writing. You have 30 seconds to finish writing. Okay, your time is up. So if you could go back to the last slide. So feel free to check your answers with the table again, and put in the chat how many of them you were able to get correct. 17, that's great. That's a really good score. 18, 19. All right, so all of you were between, I guess, 15 to 20. So that's really great. You guys did a really good job. And I see 21. That's very impressive. Okay, so now we can move on to any questions that you have, and you can put it in the chat. I'll try my best to answer them. Okay, I see that no one has any questions, and I hope you all enjoyed the workshop and were able to learn something. And thank you all for being here.
Yeah, that was awesome, Nazia. Memory is so complex, but you made it really, really fascinating and simple. So thank you for that. So that concludes our BRC workshop hour for today. And we hope you all enjoyed this session. And just so you know, We plan to host these each month with new workshops each time. So stay tuned to the Simply Neuroscience Instagram for announcements regarding next month's session. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email our presenters at their SN emails or mine. My name's Erin, shown on the slide. And I'll also try to get the working link for Atisha's presentation real quick so you all have that. Let's see. It says anyone on the internet can access it. So let me know if this link works. It looks like people are able to get on, so that's awesome. All right. Well, like I said, that concludes our BRC workshop hour for today. And thank you all so much for coming, and we hope to see you again soon. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.